Welcome to Learn How to Secure a Wireless Router. Some of the things we'll be talking about include SSID, MAC address, WEP, and WPA. SSID is Service Set Identification. Basically, it's the name of your router that's broadcast to identify it. MAC address is Media Access Control Address. This is sometimes called the physical address. WEP and WPA. WEP is Wired Equivalent Privacy, and WPA is Wi-Fi Protected Access. WPA is the newer of these two security protocols and provides a much more robust encryption method. For many, the Gadsden flag from the American Revolution kind of embodies their philosophy of wireless security. They see the network and the world in general, I suppose, in black or white, good or bad. People who would attempt to penetrate your network are bad, and those who don't are good. Other people don't see the world in such stark terms and realize that there are people who want to hack simply for the thrill of hacking, not because they want to do you any harm. However, it's difficult to know that when you're trying to secure a system, and I might mention this, there's different levels of expertise among the hackers. So it becomes a question of the value of your data against how much you have to spend to protect it. Having said that, we probably all have more at stake than you might imagine in just our personal financial records. So I would advise securing your network as best you can, realizing that there are probably hackers out there that far exceed the average individual's capability of securing the network. So take everything and measure it against what you're protecting. This shows a view of the wireless networks available on my PC this afternoon. And in one way, it's rather surprising in a sense that in my neighborhood, usually I see 4 or 5 networks shown, and this afternoon there's only one. Must be a slow day in the neighborhood, I guess. One other thing that's not surprising, though, is that I have other wireless networks available, and they don't show up. And again, I'll mention it later, but it's not perfect security to have them not show up in this list, but it's just one level of security that you can add. We'll see how you do that as we progress. This view of the wireless networks is shown now with the router turned on that I'll be using for the demonstration. And I guess my question to you is, if you were someone attempting to hack on a casual basis, which target of opportunity would you try first? And I think the answer is that even if you determined that the network existed, such as the first one that's secured, if you looked at the second one, which you can tell obviously is a Linksys wireless router, and that it's unsecured, what would make the most tempting, easy first target? Well, that's what we'll talk about, is just taking the basic first steps here to secure your wireless routers, and we'll see how you do that as we go forward. Let's learn how to secure a wireless router. I'm using a Cisco Linksys wireless router for this demonstration. You may be using some other router from Netgear, D-Link, or some other vendor. If so, then the principles will be the same as far as what we're talking about here in securing the router, but of course the screens will be different, the locations of the parameters and things like that. For Linksys routers, the default IP address is normally 192.168.1.1. I've mentioned in other videos, but to restate, I have this router set up at 2.1 because I have other routers on the network at that IP address, and it conflicts if you have more than one device at the same IP address. Also, when you first log into a Linksys router, the default password that it asks you for is admin. That would be one of the things that I would recommend changing first, and we'll see how you do that. So here's the main screen for the Linksys wireless router, and let's change that default password. First of all, notice that you have a series of links across the top here. This is a standard type of web page. As access to the browser, and one of them is labeled administration. So I'll click that link, and it will bring up a page here which includes text boxes to change the router password. So I'll change that from admin to something else. Of course, I'll keep that a secret to secure my router, and then I'll click Save Settings. Notice that it requires me to log back in now that I've changed the password, and I'll use the new password to access my wireless router. Notice that it tells me I've made a successful change, and I'll be returned to the main page of the administration page where I changed that password right now. Now let's go back up to that main page and talk about some of the other things I've mentioned in this overview before we started. Notice here there's a text box labeled router name, and I'd probably change this to match the SSID that I mentioned, the service set identification, but this is not the SSID. Let's find that page and we'll change it there first. Again, across the top you'll notice there are various tabs that we can get to change various parameters on this router, and I'll go to the tab labeled Wireless. And on this first page, the basic wireless settings, that's where that SSID name is specified in this text box. Notice that he calls it wireless network name, but within parentheses he has SSID. So I'm just going to call it my router. I've mentioned why Linksys is a bad choice to leave the default, because it helps hackers by identifying the type of router they're dealing with. Another thing you may want to change is this wireless network mode. If you know that your wireless devices are of one particular class, and notice here that it mentions B only or G only, there's actually some other wireless classes now. There's an N type class wireless router. If you know you only have one class of device connecting to your wireless router, well, I'd select that. It makes one less thing that that they're able to get in through. The other issue here is whether that name, in this case now I've changed it to my router, is broadcast and will show on the screen where you view wireless networks. Now, as I've said, disabling this and having it not show up is certainly not going to deter the most expert and determined of hackers, because they will have programs and such that will intercept your transmissions, and you have to transmit data back and forth to have a wireless network. But this provides another level of security beyond just the wide open transmission of your SSID. So I recommend it. Notice that I click Save Settings and it says click the Continue button, and my changes have been made. As I mentioned to you a minute ago, back on the main page, let me click Setup here on the menu. Notice that there is a router name, and again it also has Linksys. I'd change this to match the SSID name that you selected, and of course click Save Settings to initiate that change. The router will come back with this page here, and you can click Continue and come back to the main page, and you'll see that the change has been made.